do have 4 different kinds of call queues in our platform. Basic call queues is a really basic functionality. Think of it more like a hunt group and then adding the queuing functionality onto it. So you're always in there, can be ringing a few different people at once, that kind of functionality. Enhanced call queues, then add additional functionality on top of that, things like ACD status. So I'm out to lunch, I don't want to receive calls right now, being able to change that status. Premium as then more for complex call flows on top of that. So this is when you need your supervisors to be able to start managing what's going on with your call queues. Unavailable codes. So rather than just putting myself as busy, do I need to start reporting on how long I'm at lunch for, how long I'm going into training for, that kind of functionality, as well as outbound calling. So you may want to be calling out as a number that's applied to a call queue, not just your standard advertised business number. So it really comes down to what kind of level of integration your customer needs and what kind of functionality they need is based on what kind of call queue type they should go for. This is all managed through SaaSPOS, of course. So basic call queue, capacity of 25 calls per queue. So quite limited on that side, but 25 is probably enough for most call queues. And the agent's always in the queue. So there's no changing your ACD status or anything like that. You're just always going to be available to accept those calls. Jumping up to the enhanced call queue, that jumps to 50 calls per queue, which is a lot. If you're receiving 50 calls at once into your business, you're probably doing a lot of business. It's probably quite a large call center as well. And your agents can sign in and out of the queues. They can set themselves as unavailable when they don't need to take calls. And you'll, of course, wrap up codes as well. So if you're taking a call, you've hung up, you need that chance to finish taking your notes, save the ticket you're working on, anything like that, and finish that up before you receive that next call, rather than just being available to take that next call straight away. On top of that as well is functionality when an agent misses a call. If they've missed a call, it's probably a reason why. They may not be at their desk. You may not want them receiving the next call again because it's just going to bounce off them again. So we can force sign out that agent from that perspective. And then we've also got some basic reporting built in around that as well. So how many times someone's missed calls, all that kind of functionality. And then the main other piece there is stranded. So stranded is something that comes up a lot. You have 10 agents signed into your queue, hits 5 o'clock, they all sign out. You still have calls in that queue. What do you want to happen to those calls? You probably don't want them just sitting there and hearing on hold music and advertisements until they hang up. It's a bad experience. So we can route those calls, whether it's to a night service somewhere, whether it's to someone's mobile or to voicemail, anything like that. So we can start doing that routing once the agents log out. It's taking the step up again from there into our premium call queues. So really detailed advanced functionality here. So it can announce the queue name to the recipient of the call. Which call queue they're receiving from. If they're taking it from multiple calls, where's that coming from? Campaign management, so being able to manage which call queues are coming in from if you're managing from multiple call queues, being able to assign in multiple DRDs to one call queue and reporting on those individually. Supervisors being able to listen in on calls. So if you are doing training or something like that, and it's also really big when working remotely nowadays as well, trusting your support teams to work remotely or your call center teams to work remotely is one thing, but you may not always know exactly what they're saying and making sure they're saying the right thing. So having that supervisor being able to silently listen into the call and making sure that they are saying the right thing, they're not being rude to the end customers, those kinds of things can be done on that level as well. And then call center codes. So being able to report on once a call closed off, was it successful? Do they need to call back? All that kind of functionality can be reported on as well. And that's when we start getting our day, night, holiday schedules routing automatically in there as well. So not just using time of day schedules, really detailed from that perspective, and skill-based routing. So do you have an agent who's more likely to take your first level calls? So you have a first level team and a second level team. They're all looked into the same queue, but your first level team will answer the calls before the second level team. So being able to weight your agents within that as well. So lots of functionality built into all 3 of those call queues, and what type is really where it comes down to the questions that we get asked. So just trying to make this a bit easier for partners to understand what kind of call queue, what functionality comes into from our side. A good example of this for a basic call queue, something like a reception. They're probably most of the time going to be in the call queue, except for maybe lunch times or something like that, where you put in a time of day schedule to route it somewhere else. So if someone calls in, they're going to hear that welcome message, all that kind of functionality. They're hearing on hold music until the receptionist is available to answer that call. They may be stepping away from the desk occasionally, so they may not always answer it straight away. So giving them that advanced functionality rather than ringing on the reception and then hanging up or something or going to voicemail straight away. Next one up is our enhanced call queue. So this could be something more useful for sales teams where your agents are accepting calls all the time. If they're going into a meeting, they can put themselves unavailable. So they stop receiving those calls while they're in the meeting. You can still route those calls to voicemail when the sales team's closed or any of that kind of thing as well. So still being able to do that kind of routing. And then you've also got your sales manager who may want to manage what's going on with the team. If they've got sales agents who are logging out, who forgot to log out, they can manage that. They can see all the calls which are offered. And then they may want to take a call themselves. They can still do that as well. Then finally, we've got our premium call queue. So this could be something more like a service desk where you may have multiple inbound lines for different customers coming inbound. So you want to know which customer's calling in, you can get that applied. The agent can know which customer's coming in or which state it's coming in from. The agent may also need to call out of some of those different DIDs as well. And your supervisor, once again, being able to manage what's going on with the agents, signing them in and out, really comes down to what the end customer wants their team to be able to do. Do they want them always being in there to accept those calls, or they need to start reporting on how many calls are coming in from different customers as well? We also have a document on the PRC as well, and this goes through these details, all of the functionality of all three call queues and where they fit. So I do also recommend checking that out as well.